Hey everyone, it's Mayanna and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you can tell by my goggles, today we're talking about my undergraduate research experience. Let's go! Before I begin today's video, please consider giving the like button down below some love, subscribing to keep up with my channel, and hitting the bell icon so that you get notified every time that I post a new video. Okay, well, like I said, today I'm going to be talking about research. I would totally keep these goggles on for the video, but my ring light totally just reflects and then you can't even really see my face, so these are coming off for now. They did great for the intro, but now we're getting into the good stuff. I think the first thing that I will say about research is that you don't necessarily have to have a research experience for you to get accepted into medical school. For me, I thought research was going to be a huge part of my application, but it wasn't the things that interviewers were interested in when they asked me questions, because I never got a single question about my research. But it was still a very important part of my journey to becoming a doctor, and if you want to hear the full journey, check out this video where I talk about my journey to medicine. Ultimately, research was the thing that helped me reorient my path from a dentistry-focused path to a medicine-focused path. By the end of my freshman year at Kenyon, I was pretty sure that I wanted to join a research lab, but I wasn't quite sure which one. So I met with a bunch of different professors during their office hours to ask them about their research projects and how they like to mentor their students in their lab. During this time, I met the person that would eventually become my PI for research, and her research centered around reproductive immunology, which was kind of daunting for a second semester college student. At that point in time, I didn't have quite enough knowledge to fully understand the project, but the basic premise of it was that they're interested in looking at how chronic maternal stress leads to later development of atopic disorders like asthma or atopic dermatitis in the offspring. Another really cool feature about this lab that piqued my interest during my freshman year was that it was a brand new lab at Kenyon and did not have any official members yet. So that professor was looking for students that could start in the fall. Over the summer between my first year and my sophomore year at Kenyon, I continued that conversation with my research PI to make sure that she knew I was very interested in joining her new lab. And it turned out that I was also planning on taking her immunology class, which she was teaching that fall. A few months into the semester, once that professor actually got to see me work in class, work around students, and think about the topic of immunology, she was super open to me joining the lab, and that's when I started my research. During the remainder of my sophomore year, I was working on building basic laboratory skills like pipetting, working with the mouse colony in the animal facility, and building basic foundational protocols for our lab because, again, this was a brand new lab. So certain tasks that other labs likely have procedures for, we were optimizing protocols for things so simple as RNA isolations and things like that, since we were trying out many different kits to see which ones worked best for our tissues. During the spring semester of my sophomore year, I actually dove into a lot of literature on reproductive immunology and specifically about maternal stress and offspring asthma development, and I started to come up with my own project that we could work on in the lab. And I wrote a proposal to get a scholarship to stay the summer at Kenyon and perform this research over 10 weeks. So fast forward a little bit to that summer after my sophomore year, and I got the scholarship to stay on campus along with a few other of my lab mates and other friends, and it was such a blast to be on campus with them when no one else was. We got to spend so much time outside because it was actually warm, and we got to bond so much with all of the professors that were here as well. My project that summer was a lot of fun because I got to build an optimized protocol for using the flow cytometer at Kenyon. And to be able to use a flow cytometer and a cell sorter at an undergraduate level is really cool and something that most students don't get the opportunity to do. This project of mine resulted in a poster that I was able to present at the Kenyon Family Weekend event, and it was really just a jumping off point for the rest of my project and the rest of my years at Kenyon. Also, during the fall of my junior year, my lab mates and I took a trip to the annual immunology retreat held by Cincinnati Children's Hospital, where we got to meet a bunch of different PhD candidates in immunology at Cincinnati and talk to a bunch of research PIs there as well. And at this point in my journey to medicine, I had made the switch from dentistry to medicine at this point and had my MCAT books along during the retreat. The rest of my junior year, I did not do much research at all because I was so focused on the MCAT and also swimming and maintaining all of my other activities at Kenyon. And then by the spring, COVID started up, and at that point, there just wasn't any lab work that I could do. And that pretty much brings me to the current day. Last semester, I was working on a remote project and doing some data analysis on some samples that my PI had from her postdoc. And I ended up building a heat map with all of that data, and a really blurry picture is featured on my Instagram at @MyAnnaCookMed, which you should check out anyways. Taking a look at some of the data that I collected during that summer at Kenyon, and then this last semester when I was remote, I was able to find a kind of new tangential project that I will be able to continue in the big umbrella and big scope of my entire project. So this semester, I'm back doing wet lab bench work, and I'm super excited about it to actually be pipetting again, although I do not want to pipette for the rest of my life, which is why I'm becoming a doctor. That's not the only reason, but you get the point. I don't want to pipette for my life. Overall, my undergraduate research experience was super valuable for me because as a foundational member for this lab, I was able to build a lot of leadership skills during this experience, and now I get to mentor a new person to take on my project throughout their years at Kenyon. So it's really cool to see one generation of labbies fading out while a new group is coming in to take over. It's super exciting for us, and I'm going to miss it a lot, but I think that our group has done a lot of hard work to establish this lab and make it a long-lasting lab here at Kenyon. So, I mentioned I got to do some really cool things that most undergraduate students aren't able to do at bigger universities. Kenyon's a pretty small school and only has undergraduate students, so that leaves all of the research up to the undergraduate students and the PI. I learned so much from doing research, from leadership skills to critical thinking to data analysis and all sorts of other things. And all of those skills will certainly help me in the future as a physician. But like I mentioned earlier in the video, I was never asked about my research in any of my interviews, so I don't really think it's necessary to have research experience heading into medical school. But it can certainly help, and if you are way more research oriented and focused heading into your medical education, that will certainly help boost you at some schools where their mission is also research focused. Alright, that's it for today's video. Please check out my Instagram at @MyAnnaCookMed for more advice and tips on applying to medical school, and leave a comment down below if you have any questions for me or if you have any videos that you would like me to put up. Thank you all so much for the support, and I'll see you next week. Bye! Okay, I don't like that. Wow. That does not make sense. So we're not gonna include it in the video, but you need to come up with a sentence that makes sense. Because people don't understand your brain. Once that professor actually got to see my brain and how... She didn't get to see my brain. All I'm thinking about is bones. I just have a bunch of bones in my head. That's all I've got. Bones, but I need to think about immunology.